Perinatal mental health disorders are said to affect more than 800,000 people every year, yet the majority of those people do not receive treatment. This includes both men and women dealing with depression, anxiety, but there is help and it can sometimes be free. Andrea Clark is the director of the Alliance for People of Color and joining us now to explain. Thank you for coming in. Maybe a lot of people aren't familiar with this. What is perinatal mental disorder? Who exactly does it impact? And then explain PSI. I think it all goes together, right?
Yeah, it does all go together.
Yeah.
So perinatal mental health disorders, what most people are familiar with is postpartum depression. I've heard a lot of new parents refer to it as postpartum. But when we talk about perinatal mental health disorders, there's a spectrum, there's a range. And so that can be postpartum depression, it can be postpartum anxiety, sometimes obsessive compulsive disorder, OCD, has an onset. And we ought to also be aware that these not only affect postpartum, but also they can start during pregnancy, right?
Sure.
And so there's a whole range of disorders, and we know that as many as 1 in 5 women and 1 in 10 men or non-birthing partners are affected by postpartum depression.
I think that's so interesting that they have expanded the name for this because it's so much more than just being depressed.
Yes.
And the fact that you're saying men are also having to deal with this. So tell us, what are some of the symptoms in both men and women? What are they experiencing?
Yeah, some of the symptoms that one might experience are lethargy, like not feeling like yourself, questioning whether or not you're doing a good job as a parent, excessively crying. You might have anxiety about whether or not the house is clean enough, or obsessively checking on the baby to see whether or not the baby is doing all right. A lot for me, because I experienced this too after the birth of my son, who's now 11, a lot of times it shows up as irritability. Right? You're just snappy and irritable and you don't understand why. There might be disturbances in your sleep. You might not have an appetite. So from the time you're pregnant all the way through 1 year postpartum or post-delivery, that can be
That's a long period of time. Okay, so I mentioned at the top that there is help out there, and in some cases it can be free. For people who are at home and listening, and maybe they want to know more about that, explain.
Sure. So I am both the director for the Alliance of People of Color and the deputy CEO for Postpartum Support International. We are a national nonprofit with an international reach, but we have an abundance of resources for families, for the providers that take care of these families, and most of our resources are free. We have over 50 support groups that are virtual support groups that are key to various issues that people might experience postpartum. So whether it's depression, whether you've had a loss of your pregnancy, whether you're having obsessive compulsive tendencies, all of those groups are free. Wow. They're virtual, so you can join from anywhere, and all of the groups are led by people who have had some experience
with that experience disorder. And they know where they're coming from.
And we have one for dads too. I want to make sure we plug that.
Definitely, because I think that was very important to you to let people know this is both men and women. There is the website right there on your screen. Thank you so much for coming in. Such an important message to get out to our viewers.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you.